Disclaimer: the imagery you might see may not be suited for a younger audience. Viewers' discretion should be advised. Now that that's out of the way, we're getting to today's character highlight. One I've been wanting to highlight for some time, but it's time to get into it. School Days is remembered for its infamous ending. That's the thing about it. You mention title to anyone who's probably seen it, they immediately go to the nice boat, to the knife, that kotonoha, to, dare I say, the severed head in the box. The image that burns themselves into anime fans and history precisely because nobody expected them from something that looked, on the surface, like a standard high school romance. And quite frankly, that's fair. The images earned and the stories built to them honestly. The horrors of School Days isn't just random. It's the logical conclusion of specific failures made by specific people across 13 episodes of accumulated damage. But here's what that ending does. It pulls all the attention to the explosion, almost none of it to the person standing in the background who saw the fire starting, who understood what was burning and why, who tried to quietly, deliberately, and at significant personal cost to prevent it. That character is named Setsuna Kiyoura, the best friend that Sekai Seiyonji was lucky to call upon. You've seen her in the opening credits. She has this maybe a quiet screen time of the main three. And she leaves for France before the finale. I think that's a good one. She is, I would argue, the most emotionally sophisticated character in the entire story. And almost nobody really talks about her. Or, well, I would argue probably people that are outside the fandom, maybe, or maybe probably only seen the anime. Today, we're about to fix that. Okay, so let's start from the beginning. Like, who is Setsuna Kiyoura? From start to the beginning, she doesn't announce herself. That's the first thing you need to understand about her as a character. In the show full of people who wants to be loud, Makoto, who wants whoever is available, Sekai, who wants to be chosen, and Kotonoha, who wants things to go back to the way that they were. Setsuna is noticeable for how quiet she exists in the spaces around her, around everybody else. She's Sekai's best friend. Childhood friends at that. The kind of friendships that accumulate enough history that functions less like a relationship and more like a fact. They know each other the way that you would know somebody being close to since before you understood what closeness actually meant. Within the school structure, Setsuna occupies a particular role. She's the person's people go to, not because she's loud or powerful, but she's steady. There's something in her presence that make her situation feels manageable. She has the specific qualities of someone who has been paying attention to everything and storing it all carefully. And she's been paying attention. This is critical. From the very early stages of the story, Setsuna has Makoto all figured out in a way that other characters, even in Sekai, don't really see it. She sees his appeal. In fact, she was the one that fell in love with him first. She's not blind to it, but she's also sees the thing that underneath the appeal, the passivity, the willingness to let situations carry him rather than making decisions for him, the way which he moves towards whatever feels good without calculating the cost to the person that's moving away from it. Setsuna sees it, she doesn't announce it, she watches. And that watching, knowing, not choosing to act on knowing is where Setsuna characters lives. So she develops feelings for Makoto. It's not a background detail, as I mentioned in the previous section. It's not ambiguous. The show makes it clear that Setsuna, while navigating her role as Sekai's best friend, the emotional anchor, is also managing something she didn't ask for and cannot act on. She likes him. She will not do anything about it, though. Now, I want to sit here for a moment, because this is where a laser piece of writing would make Setsuna a martyr figure, the noble sufferer who silently gets rewarded with tragedy, and the second place girl who is morally superior to everyone else and gets nothing. Subjectively speaking, anyway. School Days doesn't quite do that, and I think that's where Setsuna, that's what makes her interesting. Her suppression of her own feelings is not presented as purely notable. It's complicated. That are where moments you can see it costing her, where her restraint is clearly an effort, where being Sekai's confidant about Makoto, the person Setsuna also has feelings for, requires a specific kind of internal management that shows you to witness even where no character directly acknowledges it. She makes a choice continuously, even in the scenes that she's supposed to make the same choice. So, this is where I'm going to go off script and kind of improv here for a bit. So, there'll be two kind of points, right? People would say, why did Setsuna kind of acted and knowing what you got caught and all that, and like, well, in spite of her being flawed, in spite of her, kissing Makoto in one of the episodes, she has never once abandoned her thought about Sekai's, wanting to be with him. She, by all counts, in my humble opinion, put Sekai over herself. In fact, Sekai has no idea. Like, if I was like, loving her, Sekai is my black girl, I would basically tell Sekai, like, she's so lucky to have her as a friend. Like, my God, Setsuna, even if Setsuna, was part of one, cheating, at the very least, I can firmly believe that Setsuna would have explained herself in the best way possible. Like, there's no doubt in my mind she would have. Okay. So here's a bit of a closing statement. Setsuna Kiyoura is not defined by dramatic action. She didn't confess, she doesn't fight, she doesn't make the big gesture and impulsive choices of the decision or anything that proves it. Her biggest lie precisely in what she chooses not to do. She chooses not to act on her feelings who would hurt Sekai. She chooses not to expose Makoto. When exposing him would cause her damage she can't control. She chooses not to escalate the escalation that would otherwise satisfy her own frustration at the expense of someone's stability. She chooses not to continuously to place someone else's at the center of the story where she's living, even when that story contains things she wants to. In a show that being synonymous with the worst impulsion of human behavior, the cheating, the obsession, the violence, Setsuna Kiyoura is a character who continuously chooses to become better. She doesn't get rewarded for it. In fact, that's not how school day works, unfortunately. Have. She makes the choices anyway. And this is where I would say that Setsuna would have. I firmly believe in one of my previous videos that Setsuna would have honestly prevented the travesty that, at least as far as the anime's narrative is concerned, she would have been one of the catalysts to stop that nice boat ending. I mean, obviously, if we didn't get the nice boat ending, we wouldn't have gotten the phenomenon that is school days. But also, because the way that Setsuna is presented, I feel like I could be stretching it, of course, but I feel like Overflow knew if they had Setsuna being one of the players to stop Makoto from his whole debauchery and his, getting, destroyed by Sekai. If she stopped that, then we wouldn't have gotten what we got. I mean, we still probably would have gotten like a drama for sure. It would be an interesting what if mid, Sekai trying to 86 Makoto or stab him, and then, in the middle of it, Setsuna gets caught in the middle, and, that's an interesting hypothetical I've been thinking about. So, yeah. So that's about it, guys. Hope you guys enjoy. This has been a long time making, so yeah. Like this video if you do, subscribe, support me on Patreon. Until the next school days video, take care, guys.